Hello and welcome back to Season 2 of the Dairy Trail. I'm Hugh Harney, Technical Dairy Specialist for Agriland, and I'm going out to different farms across the country to see what's going on the farm each week. For this season, we are talking about the farming system, how the breeding season went, mid-season grazing, grassland management, cow type, future farm developments, and investments. It's just a chat to see what's going on inside the farm gate each week. So this week I took a visit to the farm of Eugene and Eoin Lawler. We're milking 150 cows this year in Ballitore, County Kildare. So we're out on the farm here with Eugene Lawler. Eugene Lawler is milking here in Ballitore, County Kildare. Eugene, you're milking with your son Eoin and your family here. So do you want to just give us kind of a quick run through of the farm system that you're running here?
Okay, so we started 10 years ago. We were new entrants. We're currently milking 150 cows, and we're probably going to sit in around that at the moment. Everyone mucks in, particularly at the calving time of the year. And sure, we get through it and get the work done.
And I suppose, Eugene, how are cows performing at the minute? What is the current situation looking like?
Yeah, so they're doing 4.8 butter fat and 3.78 protein. They're doing 22 litres. They're on 0.4 of a kilo of meal currently, 0.2 in the morning, 0.4, just enough to get them into the parlour. Grass growth has been good for the last while. Earlier on, it was, I suppose, it got a little bit tight, and we managed it well, and we've come through, and nearly everything that they're going into is covers somewhere between 13 and 1500, and it's all after grass type grass.
Brilliant. And Eugene, I suppose you touched on it there that you're just giving them enough meal to kind of keep them in the parlour. Get them into the parlour. So I suppose you want to just touch on that, the importance of kind of that doesn't work unless you're keeping good quality covers in front of them so they can produce from those 1400 covers of a good leafy grass. So do you want to just explain your kind of grassland management around that, Eugene?
Okay, so I suppose we got a bit of a trimming from Teagasc a few years ago on our grassland management, and we've been part of the Grass 10 project for a good few years now as well. But it's a job to keep in front of it. You have to walk it on a very regular basis, measure it. The meal that we give them is 0.2 of a kilo at the moment, just enough to get them to put their head into the parlour. Cows are very, very contented at the moment. Be a little bit concerned that things are starting to dry up again. We will manage it and we'll make the changes as we have to. We've a certain amount of clover now, and that's starting to come into its own this time of the year. But clover has its own challenges, try to control weeds. Yeah,
so I suppose you're kind of are you around the 60 kgs of dry matter a day growth at the minute, Eugene?
We're up higher than that. We were at 73 or 4 2 weeks ago. We're at 67 last week. We didn't take out any paddocks earlier on, but in the last 2 weeks we've taken out 3.5 paddocks, and we've gathered 129 bales, I think it is. So that's nearly a bale per animal and per cow, and that's what has managed to keep our covers at the 13 to 1400, and all very sweet stuff in front of them. But sure, you don't know what's ahead of us yet.
Yeah, so you're trying to kind of keep a 20-21 day grazing rotation at the minute, is it?
Yeah, we went back a little bit, I'd say, to about 18 or 19 days there when we took out the other paddocks. We had to just shorten up the rotation a little bit because growth was high, and while our average growth was 73 or 4, some of the slightly heavier paddocks were doing over 100, or around 100, so we had to just trim up the ship.
Yeah. And I suppose, is taking out bales, is that the way you always do it for correcting quality, or do you do a bit of topping or pre-mowing or anything like that, Eugene?
Well, we did a bit of everything this year. We took out the bales, and then we pre-mowed other paddocks that had gone a little bit stemmy earlier on when it was dry and we were afraid to touch it. And then when the rain came, our way of dealing with this year was we pre-mowed every paddock before the cows went into it, and that's what has allowed the quality to stay there.
Okay, and I suppose so that kind of mechanical correction, with be it pre-mowing or taken out for bales, that's kind of how you're kind of keeping up your protein at this time of the year, is it?
Yeah, it's keeping quality grass in front of them and keeping grass in the feed and the meal lorry out of the yard at this time of the year. The meal lorry was wanted earlier in the start of the breeding season, and it may very well be wanted come September, October. But at the moment, we're making the best of the facilities that we have on our farm. Our stocking rate was reduced a few years ago when Teagasc came and gave us a bit of a trimming.
And when you say that Chagas gave you a bit of a trimming there, what do you mean by that, Eugene? Were they getting on to you about grass growth, or that you weren't matching that stocking rate with your grass growth, or what way was that?
Yeah, so it was all of that, Hugh. It was all of that. They came here, Joe Patton, George Ramsbottom, Ned Loughlin, and a group of advisors came here. They interviewed us for a couple of hours. They sent us off on on our way. We came back later on, and they came up with a plan. Our stocking rate was too high. We were stocked at 3.6 or 3.7, and our target was to be stocked at 3. Now, we've never really went that low, but we've stayed at 3.1, and that has allowed us to keep more grass into the cows. It happened because we weren't happy with the cows' performance given their EBI, and sure, they weren't eating enough. And even the recommendations of 8 kilos or 18 kilos of dry matter, we've put that up to the figure around 20 kilos of dry matter for cows, especially at peak production.
Yeah, so your target is to allocate that 20 kgs of dry matter of grass in order for them to eat that kind of 18, 19. Is that what you're saying, Eugene? And probably what the advisors were saying to you was that you're only, by having a higher stocking rate, you're only substituting that with meal and cost.
Yeah, and we probably weren't even, it was meal and cost, but we probably weren't even putting in the meal that would have substituted. We were grazing very tight. The clean outs were great, but sure, it had a residual effect. And we also changed our system from a 23 or 4 paddock system back to 16 paddocks, and we went from a 24 to a 36-hour grazing rotation. So that allows us only to pinch the cows twice every 3 days instead of once every day. And even that alone has made a big difference on the cows. And as far as this year is concerned, the cows are all in great order, and breeding has gone very well.
Yeah. So it was those going from that 36-hour allocation, or from that 24-hour to the 36-hour. Did you see an instant kind of better intakes from the cows and performance from it?
Well, where we seen it was in the bulk tank.
Yeah.
And the solids increased, the litres and solids increased, and we went from what was the average of 430 or 440 up to around 500 kilos of solids on the cows. And our cows are not over big, so if we can have them producing that with a small meal bill, we'll just strive to try and improve it with breeding and feeding of grass where possible.
Yeah, and you just touched on your cow type there. So what type of cow is it in your system that you want to drive those milk solids and that kind of low cost of production, as you were touching on, Eugene?
Okay, so I suppose when we started out 10 years ago, we had every sort of a heifer in the place within reason. So we then sat down with George Ramsbottom, and we looked at a breeding program that would rise our solids in a hurry. We went with a lot of Jersey cross in the beginning, and then once we got the bigger Holstein, real big Holstein type cow back to a fairly decent sized cow, we moved over to EBI, and we used the top 7 bulls in the country. We go into ICBF and we do the sire selection, and we use the top 7 bulls in the country based on percentage butterfat, percentage protein, fertility, and what's the other one? Some sort of management anyway. So
yeah,
that's maintenance. Yeah, was the word I was looking for. Yeah. So
yeah, very good. And I suppose in terms of selecting which cows, so you're using sex semen on the farm, are you? A small bit, are you?
Yeah, well, mainly on the replacement heifers. They're with a heifer rearer, and there's a couple of ladies involved there, and they do a very good job, and they specialise in bringing heifers back to our farm, or the heifers come back to our farm ahead of weights, and nearly 100% in calf all the time. This year, out of 30 heifers, the first 20 calved down with heifer calves, and they were the ones that held on with the sex semen, and then 50% with the other ones. So we had 25 heifer calves out of 30 this year from our heifers, and we used the top EBI bulls there as well. So that's where our breeding program is now, and hopefully EBI is right.
Yeah, geez, that's savage going, Eugene, in fairness now. But in terms of the cows then, what are you looking at with the cows? Are they getting conventional dairy straws, or what way are you working that?
For the first couple of weeks, we put collars in this year. So anything that comes up really bang in the middle for a sex semen, and there wasn't that many, we used sex semen. Other than that, it was conventional straws, and then after 3 weeks, we switched everything to 100% beef. We use both Angus and Hereford on the beef.
Right, and I suppose in terms of your selection for your cows, then what are you kind of looking at? Is it milk recording data that you're going off, or, with a bit of visual aspect of course as well? What way are you judging that, Eugene?
Well, it's milk recording and visual aspect, because we've some cows here under 6th and 7th and 8th lactations. Them cows are absolutely performing to the best.
Yeah.
And you look at them when you're bringing them in, and you see the Fries brands, and you see a lot of cows with similar numbers, and you'd say, look, they're here a good while now, and they're here for a reason. They're performing on fertility, butter, fat, and protein.
Yeah, brilliant. And I suppose on the dairy beef side then, so obviously with the collars, you've been able to get rid of the bulls on the farm. There's no stock bulls on the farm now, Eugene. So I suppose in terms of the beef straws that you're using, what are you kind of looking at?
Well, sure, we're using the top DBI bulls as well in both Angus and Hereford. And our aim is to try and have as good a beef calf for the next man come along, that he'll come back year after year and buy the calves off us again. Our cows are a fairly square type of cows. A lot of the Jersey type that would have been here 10 years ago is now sort of bred out of them. So we're aiming to try and fill 2 markets if we can.
Yeah. So you're looking at it that you're getting the best replacement heifer that you can have, while on your kind of suboptimal stock that you're trying to get a really good beef calf for the beef man, is it?
Sure, absolutely. If you're breeding a beef animal, it's as easy to breed the best beef animals as the same way as we're trying to breed the best dairy animals that we have. And that was one of the reasons that we're gone from the stock bulls. This is our first year. Sorry, fingers will be crossed, and we'll see how that goes. I hope everything is all right. It's gone very well so far, but sure, the proof will be in the pudding next March when we see how everything has gone, or when we scan in October.
Yeah, and I suppose the collars will be put to the test then as well. You'll really get to know how good they performed for you as well. So I suppose just on the collars, how have you found them this year? So obviously you just put them in. Was it January or something you put them in to get them used to it, or what way was it? And how have you found it from a labour point of view, and kind of pinpointing that serve for sex semen and conventional?
Okay, so the question is, they went in January this year. I suppose there was a learning curve from our point of view, and a confidence issue that, God, are we doing the right thing? But we've been really, really happy the way that has turned out. We put in the Dairy Master collars because we already had a Dairy Master draft and crate, so I didn't know if there was any issues. I wanted the one company dealing with. So when we sit down and look in the morning time when the cows come into the yard, it gives you the option to see when cows will be best suited for conventional or for sex semen. So if she's bang in the middle of the sex semen, and if the cow is the right cow, then she'll get the sex semen. If not, they get conventional, and then after 3 weeks, it's into beef straws.
Very good, Eugene. Yeah, and I suppose just it's interesting that you get 10 years on from going from suckler to dairy. What have you found as the biggest challenge getting that breeding right and getting your infrastructure right? Because it is a big change. Obviously, by the way you're talking, you've had a lot of advice and a lot of lads in, so you're very open to that. So I suppose what has been the biggest challenge for yourself?
Well, everything was a challenge for us, from finance in the beginning to learning how to grow grass and have a different mental attitude to walk on the farm, and realising you're not wasting time walking the farm, then not being afraid to ask the question. We got great help from Teagasc here, and also from the other farmers. Like, there was a lot of grass walks on this farm here, and lads wouldn't spare you too much now if they thought they would see something different.
Yeah.
And many a day we made a change after a discussion. I remember one of the first ones was a long established dairy farmer was here, and we weren't using trail and shoe at the time with our slurry at all. And we were sort of going more blanket spreading, and the advice very much was, go to the trail and shoe and follow the paddocks. Yeah. And that's what we did.
Yeah, very good. I just see a young lad coming here in the quad as well. Do you want to just tell us maybe how, like obviously you've put in the collars, you're fairly well set up infrastructure wise. From a labour point of view, what way does it kind of work with yourself and Eoin, and then kind of having those young lads in to give a dig out as well?
Well, we've an engineering student here for the last 3 years. He's an excellent little worker. He never lets us down. He can turn his hand to anything, and is the we've had someone here nearly every year since we started at calving time, and they've all worked out fine. And as long as you treat them right, and if there's a mistake made, you show them where it is, and that works fine. Owen works off farm. Some of the times he's a livestock auctioneer, and he still does the milking before he goes in the morning, and we manage through it. I go for the cows, and my wife or daughter can be here at feeding time for calves, and everyone mucks in, as I said earlier on, when it's required. And I suppose it comes back to the advice we got from Teagasc when they came to do the assessment on why the cows weren't doing it. I also got another trimming up about our calf shed and our calf shed.
Yeah. And what changes did you do with that calf shed then? What was the advice you took on board then, Eugene?
I suppose your question goes back to labour. We had too many individual pens, and we were spending too much time with each individual calf, and it was very, very labour intensive. We changed around, we tried what we were suggested to do, and it worked out a dream, and we haven't changed back from that since. So some calves would spend one day in an individual pen. A lot of calves after a feed of beestings are put in with calves, especially at the busy time of calves of the born the same day or the same couple of days, and they're up to the blue feeders and feeding straight away. So you can feed 8 calves in the same length of time was taken to feed 1 calf.
Yes, from a labour point of view, but also getting calves going, you found it was easier all in the one pen.
Yeah, and that I suppose got a bit hard to trust as well. But no bother, the calves will come up, and when they see the other calves suckling, they'd stick their head in. The vast majority of the time, they're competing from very early on for that milk. Whereas beforehand, we were spending too long in the individual pens and cleaning out pens and disinfecting pens and everything that goes along with that.
Yeah, and I see here that you have the outdoor cubicles. And look, you've the uprights in down the line. If you wanted to put up a roof over it, you can. But how do you find the outdoor cubicles, Eugene? Because you're seeing them; they're more common around the place now. So from a health point of view, and from let's say a mastitis cell count point of view, you find no bother with them, do you?
No, our cell count will be reasonably low all year long, winter and summer. We would have no issues and no concerns with outdoor cubicles. The HR went in case we're ever forced, either for environmental or animal welfare issues, in someone else's opinion. But in our opinion, absolutely no concerns at all. The cows are dead happy sitting out there. As one farmer said to me years ago, if you're ever in any doubt, ask the animals. And they'll come out and sit out there most of the time.
Okay. Yeah, and it's only a very, very harsh day that you might see them come in, but even at that, you find there's no problems.
No, 3 or 4 days of the year they might stand back coming out of the parlour, but even if you leave them alone, once you put out a bit of silage, they'll tip on out and eat regardless of the weather. And look, let's talk about the weather in the winter. It rains in the summer as well in Ireland. We have wind and rain in the summer in Ireland. If we didn't, we'd have no grass and no cattle. So they have a great big leather jacket on them, and they don't feel it. And we'd have no concerns of any sort with outdoor cubicles.
Brilliant. And I suppose just from an infrastructure point of view there, when we're talking about the cubicles, looking into the future now, is there anything down the line investment wise or grazing infrastructure, roadways, laneways that you want to invest in the next couple of years?
Not really. I think we have all the investment done that's needed. We went headlong at it early on, and maybe just as well the way costs are gone now. We have good road structures. The parlour is sort of in the middle of the middle of the farm, and I would have a little bit of concern with potential loss of derrigation in the next few years, which I hope doesn't happen. But until any decisions are made on that, there'll be nothing else need to happen here.
Yeah.
Like our farm is structured for 150 cows. We have plenty more cubicles and plenty more storage. If required, even if the rates rise, if the storage rates requirements rise, we have enough.
You're covered.
Yeah, we have our investment done now as far as, and it's try to hone in and get the breeding as good as we can and grass production as good as we can.
So it's consolidate what you have and really try and produce from the cows and the land that you have now, Eugene.
Correct, and try and rise our solids a little bit every year if we can, and just keep that going and not rise the cow numbers. We practice milking at 7 in the morning and 3 in the evening, so we can be finishing going off the farm by 5. That doesn't work during calving time.
Yeah, of course.
But other than that, everyone we try and do that so people have a lifestyle. So start a bit early in the morning, but have a finishing time a lot of farmers don't start milking until later on in the evening. We've sort of stuck with that 3 o'clock model as much as possible. That's the target for every day.
And there's no impact on production. Like you don't see any impact there, because that's often the conception that, or the perception that, we're going to lose production here, but it's not the case at all, is it, Eugene?
Well, we tried it while I suppose we were getting going and facilities weren't as good, and we were all over the shop, and we're it was 7 o'clock in the evening time, we were finished milking, and it wears you down. And as we got better, our production rose, not dropped.
Yeah.
And we see absolutely no difference in it if they can get them the 8-hour break, and that's what we do. So if the cows are in at 7 o'clock, then they're in at 3 o'clock. One of the paddocks, there's a long walk, it's a kilometre of a walk. So how we deal with that paddock is we let the cows out for the long walk at night, and in the morning they come to a paddock near the yard. So that's really the only time we share 2 paddocks in the grazing. So that cuts down the amount of time per day that the cows are spending walking.
Brilliant. Yeah, and I suppose you just kind of touched on derrigation there, so I may follow up with you on it. In terms of for this farm, if whatever decision is made at the end of this year in December, what impact would a potential loss of derrigation mean to this farm?
Well, at the moment we're just under the 220.
Okay.
That's where we are at the moment. We're sailing under the 220. If that comes back to 170, we probably I didn't do the figures yet. We're probably going to lose something like 25 cows if something like that happens. So what'll happen there, I don't know. Maybe we'll end up renting more land. I honestly don't know. Maybe we'll get rid of the bottom 10% of the cows again.
Yeah.
Which we did do when Teagasc came to us the last time, and it had no effect on our production. So maybe we'd increase solids from the cows and try and keep them over 500 or 510. In that bracket, that's the target. And sure, I think we fell back one year to 470 or 480, but that was weather related.
Yeah. And I suppose I was here a couple of months ago at a farm discussion group with yourself, Eugene, and I suppose you were a big advocate for the EIP funding. So I suppose in terms of that derrigation and every farmer kind of pitching in and doing their bit, how important do you think that is? Because you've taken on a few measures yourself, haven't you?
Yeah, we have. We've embraced lots of them. But if you look at the bigger community, farmers are doing a lot, and that takes a while to work through the system. And I suppose protected urea is one that it looks like they'll take away everything else except protected urea, and that's probably no harm, because then when it's there, lads will be more careful. But spreading urea, spreading fertilizer at the right time of the year, having enough slurry storage, that you can get the best out of your slurry when the time is right, and not be rushing out with tanks just because you need to. And even watching the weather, like the lesson was learned in 2018. The advice at the time was to spread and stay spreading. We done it the same as everyone else, and in September and October that year there was a huge release and a huge flush into the river. So lads need to fertiliser. A couple of years ago was gone up to nearly €1,000 a tonne, and that focused lads a good bit, and a lot of them found out that they could deal with a little bit less. And sure, look, we have clover paddocks in as well, and as I said earlier, the challenges with them with weed control, but you can see them now this time of the year, like it's really taken off, and there's very little fertiliser going on to them.
Yeah, which is a huge cost saver as well, Eugene. So I suppose, Eugene, I just wanted to finish up with you now, just in terms of the future then for yourself and Eoin involved. Obviously, that generational renewal thing is a big topic of discussion at the minute. It was only said in Moore Park the other week that less than 5% of farmers in the country are under the age of 35. So I suppose, do you want to just give a quick kind of outline and just on your idea of how to get that next generation into farming? Is it a work-life balance? Is it an income piece? What way have you been kind of doing it with your own lad Eoin?
Okay, so it's a little bit of everything. There's lots of opportunities outside the farm gate at this moment in time, and not every person wants to be tied to something 7 days a week. So that's down to management and making sure everyone has time off, and but there has to be an income, and there is an income out there, and that was the reason we went into it. Would have went into it years earlier, except for the quota, so that couldn't happen. The farm was ideally set up for that, and the first shed my father built when he got the farm years and years and years ago was set up. But anyway, that's where we are now. We were a little bit ahead of the discussions in Moore Park this year. We're already in the process of transferring and setting it up. And for farmers that need to do it and are thinking about doing it, it takes a while to do it. It's not something you can just do overnight. There's a lot of planning required, and they need to talk with tax consultants as to the most efficient way to have a transfer that's not killing the next generation. But we need to keep them in, and a system is going to have to be got in place to bring in new blood into the whole farming aspect, because it will die off. The big entry that happened 10 years ago, that's now, as you said, consolidating. So we need to find a way as a country to make it attractive for the next generation.
Yeah, look, Eugene, I'm not going to ask any more questions now. I think we've covered a whole lot. So look, I just want to thank yourself and obviously Eoin involved in the farm as well, and the family, and I want to wish you the best of luck for the rest of the season, and may the cows keep pumping milk and grass keep growing. Good man, thank you.
All right, thanks.
So that's all for this week's episode of The Dairy Trail. I'd like to wish Eugene, Eoin and the Lawler family the best of luck for the rest of the year, and hopefully scanning results prove that it was a successful breeding season. If you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to rate and review or share the podcast with a friend or a fellow farmer. Thank you very much for listening.